Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come to a mini symposium on outreach in plant sciences. This is a part of a series of workshops that the North American Arabidopsis Steering Committee has hosted. And this is something that is a part of a NSF-funded research coordination network that is focused on basically re-envisioning the way that we approach plant science, Arabidopsis research in this country and abroad. So one of the first workshops was focused on training. Second was focused on emerging technologies. And this workshop is focused on outreach. So one of the first questions that one of the participants asked me is, well, what do you define as outreach? And I think outreach is something that we can all understand in terms of how it plays a role in our wanting to express and share the joy that we have for science and the importance that science has for our society. But sometimes it's worth thinking about formalizing, well, what does outreach mean? So one possible definition of outreach might be the engagement with members of the public that are outside of our immediate professional community. And this includes communication of our findings, field relevant knowledge, professional activities to students and educators at all levels, government organizations, and business entities. And by thinking about this particular definition, we can see different aspects that are related. We're trying to communicate with people who are outside of our professional community. So we can immediately see how communication and understanding where each of these communities is coming from and the biases that are inherent with these different communities is going to be important for effective outreach programs. Now, we all have good intentions, but how do we take our good intentions and actually use them to inform the public in an effective way? And so I think something that we're thinking about in this workshop and something that we want to formalize are ways of thinking about outreach programs and properties of those outreach programs that we can improve. We need to think about outreach programs as being innovative. So how do we create and evaluate and reward and share outreach activities that work in plant science? How do we make sure outreach activities are inclusive? So how do we excite the imagination of a broader portion of our community to be excited about science and plant science? And how do we make sure that our outreach programs are integrative? So how do we better unite the diverse members of our community to ensure that we are more than the sum of our parts? Now, in plant science, I would say that we have additional challenges that may be specific to our discipline. So what does an effective outreach program look like in plant science? So things that we need to think about in terms of challenges for generating these outreach programs. We all come with our own cultural bias. We have our own upbringing, communities that we grew up in, and this all informs the way that we interact with other members of our community and outside communities. This is particularly the case as many of us come from universities, and these communities are quite distinct from communities that are not associated with academia. We have also opportunity gaps. So if we're trying to impact community, well, we need to make sure that those communities understand and know what are the programs that exist. There are resource gaps. So of course, these activities take money, they take funding. How do we ensure sustainability of that funding? And how do we make sure we're putting funding in the hands of people who are going to use it most effectively? There are recruitment gaps. We need to ensure that the members of our community that are interfacing with the broader society reflect the members in that broader society. So do we have an inclusive academic environment that helps to ensure persistence and maintenance of people of diverse backgrounds? And finally, plant blindness. So plants are ubiquitous, vegetables are healthy, and what could be more boring? And having 3 small children, they really don't like anything green. And so this is something that we need to think about, is how do we take something that's as ubiquitous as the air we breathe and make it exciting? So everyone in this room is fortunately a part of a mini symposium that's going to cover the state of the art in outreach programs. But this is a part of a broader workshop program. So tomorrow and the next day, we have a panel of experts who are going to be working together to try to craft a vision for how outreach programs should be crafted, evaluated, and rewarded and funded. And this then involves different aspects that we're going to be focusing on. We want to think about crafting programs with awareness of cultural biases, cultural context. We want to develop programs in which part of the program is to evaluate the effectiveness of the program. We want to use effective pedagogy, consultation with experts, as well as assessments. This, of course, is going to be then important for evaluating these programs and also convincing government agencies in order to support them. We want to think about ways that we can fund them through programs such as NSF, but also university funding and private foundations. And then when we have an effective outreach program, how do we make sure that people are not reinventing the wheel, that we can share these programs with the broader community, and so that we can ensure that there are, we can scale up these programs. So the development of coordination networks, publishing results in outreach, and also the inclusion of outreach as an important part of research conferences is something that we'll also be thinking about. So, as I mentioned, the reason everyone is here is for the mini symposium, and you guys really are in for a treat. We have a fantastic panel of speakers that are going to be discussing their own experience in outreach at many different levels. We have programs that will be discussed on public school partnerships, using different model plants for education, programs that graduate students can engage in, the iBiology program, which is democratizing science. We have science literacy through art, and then also social media, the use of social media to share experiences in plant science. So after that, the brief presentations, there won't be times for questions, but there will be a panel discussion afterwards in which we can all share our experiences, but also ask questions of our panelists. So without further ado, we'll move on to our first speaker, Mary Wildermuth from University of California, Berkeley, and she'll be discussing developing the next generation of diverse scientists, Be a Scientist program as a model for university public school partnerships.